All right, welcome back to the channel. So, Floyd Mayweather says, I made Canelo Alvarez a pay-per-view star before he was a pay-per-view king. And he said he's willing to make Tank Davis the same status as once Floyd Mayweather was as a fighter he was. So, this is interesting. I'm going to break it down for y'all. Let's talk about it in this video. King Jr. got another video for y'all. Please share that you like and subscribe to the channel to get all your latest boxing news. With that being said, Floyd Mayweather had some interesting things to say recently as he talks about Canelo and stuff like that. And Floyd Mayweather says that who was Canelo before then, because I made Canelo a pay-per-view star and stuff like that. And he said he's going to do the same thing with Tank Davis. Here's my whole take on the whole situation. You cannot compare Canelo Alvarez to Gervonta Tank Davis. Now, you can't make a comparison with Canelo Alvarez and Floyd Mayweather because that's just two different brackets of fighters. Canelo Alvarez was, at that time when he was younger, he was not the pay-per-view star. He was just coming up like any typical fighter. And Canelo Alvarez, I'm going to go over some names that he has accomplished since then. And he's did more than what Gervonta Tank Davis is doing before Canelo got to 27. So I'm going to say these names. Canelo Alvarez fought Alfonso Gomez. He fought Kermit Cintron. He fought a Shane Mosley. Now, this was an older Shane Mosley then, but that was a different type of Shane Mosley. He was out of his prime and stuff, but Shane Mosley still a big name. He fought Josecito Lopez, and the biggest one that stand out was Austin Trout. And Canelo Alvarez, we cannot make an argument with him and Gervonta Tank Davis. Canelo Alvarez has accomplished a lot more than what Gervonta Tank Davis did before he was 27 years old. Now, 27 years old, that's a stretch for Gervonta Tank Davis, because Gervonta Tank Davis should have been fought in the best of the best. Now, the only guy on Gervonta Tank Davis' resume that stands out is really fourth division champion Lito Santa Cruz, which was a Hall of Famer, and you could position Pedraza or Gamboa, but those names really didn't stand out because that was a shot Gamboa, and that Gamboa was actually had an Achilles in the fight and stuff like that. So then Canelo Alvarez fought Floyd Mayweather. We know he lost against Floyd Mayweather, but since I believe Canelo Alvarez was 23 years old, so after Canelo Alvarez lost to Floyd Mayweather, he fought an upcoming name, Alfredo Angulo. Then he fought Eris Landy Lara. Some people argue that he lost to Eris Landy Lara and stuff like that. I favor Canelo to win that fight. It sounds crazy to a lot of you guys, but I have it based on aggression in the fight, because there was times that Eris Landy Lara was using a lot of excessive movement in the ring. Like, there was some times that Eris Landy Lara would get in, get out, he'll jump back every single time. He was moving too much, using lateral movement, and you guys know how ring generalship, you could win the fight with ring generalship. We've seen what Josh Taylor did to Jack Cottrell, and that was a controversy win for Josh Taylor. But then Canelo Alvarez fought the likes of James Kirtland and Miguel Cotto, and then so on and so forth. So those was basically the guys that Canelo Alvarez those were seen to be the best at the time. So Alfredo Angulo and Eris Landy Lara and James Kirkland seemed to be the best guys at the division at that time. And so even though he fought Miguel Cotto, that was a shot Miguel Cotto and stuff like that. That was not the same Miguel Cotto. But Canelo Alvarez has fought bigger names than what Gervonta Tank Davis is doing before he got to the age of 27. And you see how Canelo Alvarez's career has been. Floyd Mayweather, in my opinion, he's just taking shots at Canelo Alvarez. Floyd Mayweather just don't like the fact that he had to pass the torch to Canelo Alvarez, but he seemed to did pass the torch. And, this is how it goes in the sport of boxing. You pass the torch from one fighter next. For example, Manny Pacquiao was looking to pass the torch to Errol Spence Jr., really. And you can say somewhat he passed a half a torch to Yordenis Ugas, but really Manny Pacquiao was looking for a way out. He was looking to pass the torch to Errol Spence Jr. Now, Errol Spence Jr., in my opinion, would have beaten Manny Pacquiao, because that wasn't the same Manny Pacquiao 15 to 20 years ago. And Manny Pacquiao is a Hall of Fame legend and stuff like that. But to answer you guys' question about Floyd Mayweather says Canelo Alvarez was not a pay-per-view star before he was upcoming. He was not a pay-per-view star because he was fighting on the undercard of Floyd Mayweather at that time, and then eventually 2 fights over before he got to that. I believe he fought Josecito Lopez on Floyd. No, not Josecito. I think he fought Shane Mosley on Floyd Mayweather's undercard, and then he fought 2 fights after he defeated Josecito Lopez and Austin Trout and stuff like that. And Gervonta Tank Davis has not accomplished what Canelo Alvarez has did, because Canelo Alvarez, he fought a lot of fighters, and but he basically fought the best that was the best at the time when he was in the. But with that being said, I'm just gonna go down the likes of Gervonta Tank Davis's resume. Okay, I'm gonna start from the scratch. So nobody knows who. Well, I'm gonna start from the first 10. Nobody really knows who's Guillermo Alvarez is. Mario Antonio, Jose Pedraza, we know who that is. Liam Walsh, Francisco Fons, Julius Marcelo, Hugo Ruiz, Ricardo Nunes, Yurico Gamboa is a name, Leo Santa Cruz, Mario Barrios doesn't even count as a name for real because we didn't know who he was, and Isaac Cruz, which I like Isaac Cruz as a fighter. But if you go down Gervonta Tank Davis's resume, he hasn't fought guys with big names at the time. He just fought basically nothing but pure Mexican fighters and stuff like that. So Gervonta Tank Davis, he's not. To Floyd Mayweather states that he's going to be a pay-per-view star, but with a resume like that, he's not accomplishing what Canelo Alvarez has accomplished. Because just because you started out as your career, Floyd Mayweather, as fighting Mexican fighters, which Mexican fighters and black fighters do sell, but that was a different era of boxing with Mexican, when everybody wanted to see a Mexican fighter versus a black fighter. That was the biggest time. But now in 2022, it's not the case, because it's not seems to be selling like the way it used to be selling. And, Gervonta Tank Davis is only 27 years of age, and he needs to be fighting Devin Haney. He needs to be fighting Ryan Garcia. He needs to be fighting Teofimo Lopez. He needs to be fighting big names. He just can't be fighting these guys, these local cab drivers you pick up at a Walmart store and stuff like that, because it's going to tarnish his career. And like I said before, the lesser competition you fight, I believe it's going to have effect on your abilities, because you're going to get to a state that you are comfortable at fighting nothing but cab drivers and getting your shots off, getting your fancy stuff shot off in the ring. But when you get into a level where you're facing an A+ fighter, anything like that, you're going to start struggling and show signs of exposure. And then that's when the casual and diehard, all the boxing fans go come out and say, look, Tank Davis really not good. He just got exposed. But you can't make an argument that Gervonta Tank Davis has accomplished more than Canelo Alvarez. It's just not that it. And I have to agree with Floyd Mayweather. Nobody didn't know who Canelo Alvarez was when he was coming up. But Canelo Alvarez was passed the torch by Floyd Mayweather. And Canelo Alvarez has been doing big things since then. We know Canelo Alvarez is not fighting the guys we want him to fight. But I truly believe that Canelo Alvarez can beat all these guys. I think that Canelo Alvarez, if he got to fight a low blow Joe for a lot of money, why fix something that ain't broken? But I have to admire what Canelo Alvarez is doing. He's just trying to do what's best for businesses and what's best for him and his family at the end of the day. But with that being said, Floyd Mayweather says that Canelo Alvarez was not a pay-per-view star or anything. He was fighting on my undercard to become the best of the best. And he's going to make Gervonta Tank Davis a big star just like he was. With that being said, guys, it is what it is. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. This is your boy King Jr. I'm out of here. Peace.